Some viewers might find it a bit too dark and scary. Viewer discretion is advised. I can distinctly remember all the way back to the olden days of my childhood. Probably the age when I still had a lot of my relics, such as my Nintendo GameCube and all those wonderful titles that came with it. Thousand Year Door, Smart Sunshine, and Super Smash Bros. Melee, to name a few. However, one game will always stick out from the rest no matter what, and that game was Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I have a very good reason for it, and that reason is mainly why I'm telling this story today. Now, Sonic Adventure 2 in itself was a great game. The story was fairly convoluted to me, at least for a while. Gameplay was astonishing and made up for my childish habit of lacking understanding. My favorite aspect about the game overall is definitely Child Garden. If you're not familiar with Sonic Adventure 2, the Child Garden is basically a place where you're given these little creatures called, obviously, Chow, which you can raise and evolve as well as use them to compete in either the Chow Race or Chow Karate. Since I live in my family as a only child with no pets and little and the means of friends, I found myself wrapping this virtual daycare day after day, spending my time with these adorable little creatures and raising them to be absolutely perfect. It provided me endless hours of entertainment, even caused my parents to become concerned that I was spending too much time near the TV. Then came that day when I was fooling around in the Chow Garden. A problem I was raising. I want to buy another Chow egg so I can have a new Chow. To evolve a Sonic Chow, but all three of the games' gardens are full, meaning I had to get rid of one of my Chow to make room in the garden. I didn't feel like giving any of mine away. There was one in particular I had forgotten about. A yellow angel type Chow simply named Cuddles. Cuddles is the oldest Chow I had in the garden, being born from one of the first two eggs I received when I first began the game. Had raised him for a good few years ever since I had first purchased the game, and as such he carried with me a lot of memories. He had been the very child that had emerged victorious in all difficulty of both the Chow Race and Chow Karate, and had been, I guess, something of a best friend to me. I had to read in some guys. I had planned to try and transform him into a Chaos Chow. I got bored with trying to do it, and now I simply had no idea what to do with him. In later days, I stopped paying attention to him almost entirely. He was more or less kind of like an old dog that had lost his touch. After a while of deliberating, I decided to let go of him once and for all. Had other child that could easily take his place, and as I mentioned before, he had lost my interest. It was a little sad, but I really wanted that Sonic Child more than anything, so I walked over to the transporter at the edge of the garden and selected the goodbye option. The game asked me again if I really want to say goodbye to Cuddles, and I hesitated out of regret, but eventually found myself hitting the yes option, causing the game to ask yet again. This time, I stopped for a few seconds to rethink of my decision. But again, I found myself selecting the yes option, thoughtlessly finalizing the action and getting rid of Cuddles from the garden once and for all. I felt upset about it, but reminded myself about the Sonic Chow. I pressed the A button to go back to the Chow Garden. When I did just that, I first noticed that the pleasant little tune that usually plays in the Chow Garden was absent. It took me off a little, but it was an unusual occurrence, as my Sonic Adventure 2 disc has been scratched for some time, which often caused some odd issues with the game, such as the music stopped halfway through levels, followed by a GameCube error message, and as far as I clicked save the game and prepared for the game to crash. When it did, soon after the game saved, and I went to the stage select, shrugging it off, I took the disc out of the console, spit on my shirt, then rubbed it all over the back of the disc before putting it back into the tray and restarting it. On the first two attempts, the game crashed at boot, which now had me worried because Sonic Adventure 2 never usually had startup problems like this. On the first try through, I finally got the game to run. After loading up my save file and heading to the stage select screen, I once again noticed that the game's music had muted for this time, alongside all the sound effects, leaving the game completely silent. I stayed there on the stage select, waiting for the GameCube error message to show up again. Only it didn't. The game seemed to continue functioning normally through it was soundless to make sure it didn't crash. I had to try and play through one of my favorite levels, Metal Harbor. I selected its icon and waited patiently as the game began to load the stage. Well, Metal Harbor eventually did show up with Sonic running full speed. The upbeat music that nobody plays did not. However, the sound effects had returned, and about a minute into the stage, the music started up as well. My younger self went through the possibility that something might have been wrong with the disc tray of my GameCube, but nevertheless, the game suddenly went back to normal, and for that I was satisfied. Maybe about halfway through the stage, I ran into this familiar crate that held the chow key and broke it open. When I touched it, however, the GameCube made a loud, ugly, joy beat sound that usually caused me to jump. Never had the console done anything like this at all in the past, becoming extremely annoying by its slightly weird for the state of my GameCube at the same time. I hopped up on the leather couch had been sitting on to unplug the console. That's when I noticed a major red flag that something was wrong with the game while I was playing it. I think it was just me hoping that the game would stop and continue to function. But I glanced at the TV as I walked towards it when I suddenly noticed something out of the corner of my eye that caused me to stop. Just in the way distance in the sky, near the sun, I noticed some kind of flying circular object that was oddly bright yellow in color. Taking a step back to stare at the object, it was way too far from the level to make out any details. And I was just looking at something like a yellow blur of yellow and cyan. It couldn't be him. Could it? No, it's probably some glitch pixels from the game crashing or something. You're just freaking myself out. I recall my 12-year-old self thinking at the time. Praying that my GameCube wasn't intently fried at this point, I tried to start up Sonic Adventure 2 yet another time. Slightly enough, it started up completely fine, and the rest of the game played fine as well. You have to get into the child key to make sure everything was working. Sorry for me through. It didn't stay that way for long. After maybe about 15 minutes of going through levels, going to collect the animals and chaos tribes, I need to raise my Sonic child. Eventually returned to the garden to hand them to him, for essentially remember leaving him there. I couldn't find him anywhere, but I look everywhere for that little guy. Even searching every corner of all the other gardens, I simply cannot find him. Getting desperately worried, I sped over to the last place I could think of, the kindergarten class. Walking through the blue-colored door, I ran in and take Chow from the selection box to check if he was there, which was unlikely, but to my surprise, his name, Sonic Jr., showed up. I pressed the A button to confirm the action, and the game came back. And it did. A feeling of relief swept over me as I saw the child in Sonic's hands. I took him back to the child garden and placed him there. When I did, he just eyed and stood there. He didn't walk around, make any animations, or anything. He just kind of stood there, complete motionless, like a standing pose. In fact, as I moved around, I noticed that the same had happened to the rest of the child. It was like everything in the game had just frozen, except for like last time. No GameCube error message showed up. I ran around the empty garden for a bit, trying to ease myself of worry by just petting the child and throwing them around in the boredom. They still refused to do anything and were stuck in that motionless standing pose. After what felt like maybe 5 minutes of derping around with the child, I started to get bored. I could have ran out of and back into the child garden to see if that would fix anything. But my child were still the exact same as they were before I left, unmoving and idle. At this point, I was now officially unnerved. If I ran in and out, the game should reload everything in it as it was before, and that would have been that. I said I tried checking out the other two gardens to see if they were also frozen, but instead I was greeted with another shocker. All my child and both of them were gone. When I dashed back to the main garden, the child there were gone as well. And we could stop playing a little after I entered, and soon enough the GameCube threw another error message in my face. I got out of my chair and headed back to reset the GameCube. When I was about to, however, I noticed the music from the garden start up again from the speakers. When I looked up, the error screen suddenly had mysteriously disappeared, and someone was just standing there waiting for my command. The child were still absent. I went back to the couch and grabbed my controller to nervously investigate. From what I remember, I ran in between the gardens for the longest time, maybe about 15 to 20 minutes. See if anything I did would cause the game to load my child like normal. Eventually, I stumbled across another sight. A dark-type child I didn't remember having before, sitting in a gray cocoon, vanishing as the result of child death. After he disappeared, underneath him was one of those crude drawings child make randomly when they participate in the drawing contest and in the drawing class. An angel-type child. For I noticed something off about it to me. It looked like it had something of a more yellowish tinge to it than usual. It reminded me of that same familiar friend I used to have. Now I was terrified. I went out of the garden, but as soon as I ran into the exit, the GameCube error screen came up once again, going with that loud joining beep from earlier, only this time it shredded out of my console. It sounded incredibly bit crushed. I also recalled that the GameCube started roaring as if the fan was spinning very fast. At first, I was relieved thinking that the game had at last crashed and was done fricking around with me. My focus, however, was quickly averted as the error message vanished as quickly as it had came, and the stage loading screen came up with no message or text accompanying it. It was just blank. When the level finally came to, it was a strange stage that I recognized as the game's test level. At the time, I had no idea where the hell I was or how I got there. It was just a big, dark stage with a bunch of objects scattered around. It's to say, the horrifying curiosity leads the way. I ran around exploring the alien stage for a while, still deeply concerned as to what was going on. There was no music aside from the sound effects Sonic made, and the whole level made me feel very much unnerved, since I was still confused as to how I got there. That's when I noticed that the game started to chug quite badly as I was falling down one of the ramps, to the point where it was maybe about a second between each frame. Then I saw something that I am certain was not in the stage before. A yellow child with yellow wings and familiar blue halo. He was just standing there, idling throughout the lag. He was just standing there, idling throughout the lag. I'm approaching him in this frozen horror, almost like a trance. I tried to pick him up, but when I did, the game got stuck on a single frame ending with one last loud, ugly, big crush beep. The console at last crashed, but the TV was stuck on that one final frame of Sonic reaching out to grab Cuddles. At the time, I was completely mortified. Pretty much convinced that Cuddles had been haunting my game all along. I was out of revenge because I had gotten rid of him. It got to the point where I never even touched Sonic Adventure 2 for a long series of weeks. I'm glad I got the courage to play again. I read the game to find it functioning surprisingly normal, aside from a few crashes here and there. But the biggest surprise of all was that when I went to visit it, I found Cuddles back in the child garden. Very weird considering I had saved the game before that same occurrence. But I wasn't complaining at the time. I ended up keeping him, being childish frightened that he would continue to torment me if I tried to get rid of him. Not long after that, my GameCube finally died of hardware failure one day and ceased to function, causing my parents to put it to rest. Years later, I was so intrigued by this in my childhood. I rapidly asked around online forums, and even going as far as to send an email to Sega, which I never got a response to. However, what fascinated me was that nobody could explain the incident. Most people told me that they thought it was simply some kind of elaborate glitch, while a majority particularly accused me of being full of carp. However, a few like me were also fascinated by the occurrence, going as far as to theorize about it being some kind of coding bug or even a legitimately haunted copy of the game. Some have also claimed that they've deleted child from their gardens themselves only to have them come back upon reloading the saves. Nevertheless, I never quite received a definite answer. That is why those few had pushed me to upload the story as a simple creepypasta with no further explanation beyond the events I previously described. If I had to guess, perhaps some piece of hardware within my GameCube went haywire, causing the game to behave in a strange way, and she was causing all the events in the story. Now, this isn't only my take on the events. I can't say for sure what happened that day. There's a high chance that I'll never will, as my GameCube was thrown out and I have no literal idea what happened to my memory card soon after. As a result, I leave this story as is. Regardless, hope you reaches this story of what happened to me out soon after I made the decision to say goodbye to my chow, Cuddles. So that was Sonic Adventure 2, Goodbye Cuddles. And overall, this is a kind of a pretty good creepypasta, but there's like an issue, like this story is almost a bit too similar to that one Pokemon creepypasta about like a hackers who die like during a Nuzlocke run that the players attempt to do, which I think it's a bit, but at least here it wasn't like something. At least it wasn't something involved like a child died by accident, but more like the ghost of that child, Cuddles, just haunting the player of the story. Which, yeah, at least there's no like hyper-realistic blood and all the there's no hyper-realistic blood in the story, which I think that's a good thing. So I give the story a pass for that, and also the ending. The ending is kind of like a bit, leave us like questions like, is the GameCube actually did someone actually purchase the player's GameCube, and just like have like the memory card which you can say in Sonic Adventure 2 and just cares about it, like, yeah, some of these questions will be left unanswered, because of that ending. Just, it's quite kind of a little bit bittersweet, and like, the players just felt sorry over Cuddles, and just like kind of promised that, and possibly promised to it that he'll never gonna get rid of him again. But he had to let go of the GameCube, because it was died off, after crazy events during that story. So yeah. So anywho, I just hope you guys enjoyed this video, and like and comment this video and subscribe more content. So this is Mr. Fred here, and I hope you have a great day. So see ya.